Welcome to Eddie's Podcast. To subscribe to this magnificent podcast, go to www.eddiepodcast.com. This show is hosted by Eddie Stevens and his much better half, Jaquie. Are you ready? I know I am. So, sit back, relax, and let's enjoy Eddie's Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 10th episode and finale of Eddie's Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, the Palm Beach columnist and new author, Leslie Gray Streeter. Leslie, are you with us today?
I am.
And Leslie, you dropped quite a bomb on social media this past week.
I did.
What's the great, beautiful news in your life?
I am moving to Baltimore. I am leaving the Palm Beach Post and South Florida. I'm going to be leaving Florida before I leave the Post. I'll be leaving in July, and then I will work remotely. The plan is until the end of August. But yeah, it was time. I'm from Baltimore. I have family there. I'm honestly worried about this COVID situation here. It's getting better other places and getting much worse here. And I just want my son to be in a place that's a lot more diverse, that's a lot more people that I grew up with and who knew his dad, who can tell him about his dad. I mean, there's just so much of that area that is attractive to me. I mean, nothing's perfect, but it's pretty attractive to me.
And your mom came down here with you, but basically all your family's up in Baltimore.
Well, actually, no. Very few people are in Baltimore. Most people are like around Maryland. My mother and dad grew up closer to D.C. So, and if you know that area, you know that that's a cultural shift. But they raised us in Baltimore because they went to college there. But I'm moving to Baltimore because that get really great houses for a pretty good price. It's a very diverse city. There's a lot of progressive stuff going on. We'd be in the same neighborhood with my best friend's family, and Scott's family is pretty close by, and I'll be about 35 minutes from my sister in Annapolis.
Well, I know you've been a columnist for the Palm Beach Post since 2002, and I think I speak for all of Palm Beach County that we're going to really miss reading your articles locally. I know you're on to bigger and better things, which we'll talk about in a second, but you have been such a blessing to our county, and thank you for your words and
you know, it's
guiding.
Been wonderful. It's been wonderful. I mean, I never imagined when I moved here at 31 that I was going to be here for 18 years, or what, really weird and interesting ups and downs my life would take. But I've always felt very supported by the community here, and it's sad to leave, but it's time to leave.
Well, we wish you luck on your next adventure, and let's talk about the book, Black Widow, A Sad, Funny Journey Through Grief for People Who Normally Avoid Books with Words Like Journey in the title.
Yep.
It was a great book. Both Jaquie and I have read it now a couple times. And to be honest with you, the subject matter deals with, the grief of the loss of your husband. And at times I was reading it, and sentences would make me very sad, but at the same time, I would laugh because of the humor that you would inject, and I would find myself kind of guilty that I was laughing out loud at such a grief-stricken moment for you. Well,
and that was, to me, really the point of it, is that life is fluid and feelings are fluid, and there's like a continuum, so I feel like I just wrote the way that it felt to me, and I wasn't trying to make it funny. I wasn't like, slipping on a banana peel under the casket or whatever. And it wasn't like I must have a moment in here that was funny. I just wrote it how it felt. And I think that all of us have moments in sadness where we look back and we go, oh yeah, it was also funny that, like, cousin Darlene never liked grandma, and she was up there, saying nice things about her at the funeral. Like, what? Or like stuff like that, where I think our brains do that. And I think that, the divine does that to break those moments up. So don't feel guilty. That was it. It came out the way it was supposed to, I guess.
I also felt like you have a talent for, I think you have a bit of a dark sense of humor, maybe.
I do.
And you do have a talent for making the reader, for making people see the funny side of things that may or may not be funny, and in a very relatable way, because at one point in the book, you're talking about your mom giving you a little grief, or you're thinking your mom might give you a little trouble because you were eating barbecue chips and you were wiping the, the salt and the barbecue. And at the same time, when I was reading the book, I was eating Cheetos and I was wiping the doodle dust off. So very relatable in the weirdest possible way.
By the way, who is that? Who is that?
This is Abby. Abby likes to participate when we do the podcast.
Abby, oh, what a face. Look at that face. Oh,
she's
my
a good girl.
I love that.
She has a twin just like you do.
Oh.
She does. He's around here somewhere, but we don't have that much time, so I won't introduce you all the dogs this time.
Some other time I'll have to Zoom you guys. And literally, I mean this.
Yeah.
I want to see your dogs. Even if not in person, I want you to hold your dogs. But that's another thing.
Absolutely.
Now, it's so funny about humor, because people, they put humor in a box. I truly find things that are funny. There's funny things in kind of everything. Sometimes you'll have a fight. I don't know about you guys in your relationship, but my husband and I would have stupid fights, and then something dumb that seemed really serious would happen, and we'd start laughing. It's okay, that was dumb. This whole thing was dumb. Never mind, whatever. And I think that sort of reads into my humor. What I don't find funny is meanness. I don't like mean humor. I don't like South Park. I don't like Family Guy. I don't like things that are cruel, that say we have to shoot down a target that we've decided is worthy to shoot down because we felt like it. It does not even, half the jokes aren't even funny. It's just look, we're mean, and it's not what I like, so I like goofy things. And there is something, slightly dark about finding anything funny about picking out your husband's gravesite. But at the same time, that moment was kind of what do I do? Or just there's a part they didn't make it in, that they were driving us around to the different parts of the cemetery. And there was the military part, and there was the Jewish part. And then there was something called Babyland.
Oh.
Yeah. And we looked at each other, and I was like, that's super on the nose in a really not cool way. So every once in a while, the next couple of days we go, well, at least you're not going to be buried in Babyland. I go,
wow.
Which is, once again, awful. But why would you call it Babyland? It was funny because it was wrong.
That's right.
And
you did a terrific job getting across Scott.
Oh, thank you.
I came out of this book feeling as though I was friends with both of you, but feeling very much like I had met Scott.
Oh, I hope so. That was my aim with that part of it. And I'd say in the book that a friend of Scott's was listen, make Scott real. Don't just make him some guy who died. Make him a real person. And I tried to do that, and I think that I did a good job, mostly because he was so vibrant, and people have so many stories on my Facebook page. You guys are both on my Facebook page. I'll ask for Scotty Z stories. I go, so just random day on board, tell me a story I don't know. And the opportunity to meet my husband through different people's eyes in ways that I've never seen him, because I didn't know him when some of these people knew him, or I didn't know these particular sides of him, has been really wonderful. And so I feel like I'm constantly, 5 years after his death, I'm constantly learning new things about him, or having new stories and new associations with things that will now make me laugh. And it's a real blessing.
And while it's a memorial about this experience, it kind of also memorializes who Scott was. And I can see Brooks picking this up someday and really saying, oh, wow, this is, this gives me a lot of information about my dad.
I hope so. And I want to be that for him the most. I want that to be for him.
So I found the chapters to be really interesting, because for the most part they're named after 70s, 80s kind of theme musics, either sitcoms or those hour-long shows that we all
Absolutely.
love. Is that part of the narrative?
Well, it's such a big deal. Everything in publishing I feel is a big deal. The cover and the cover art and the name and they didn't want it just to be chapter 1, chapter 2, you're not going to let you go that easy. You're that kind of writer. It needs to be significant. So I just was what is a thing that's me? And what is the thing that's fairly established about me if you know me, and will be established once you read about me? And it's that I'm a pop culture reporter, and that it's that the book itself, the narrative, is full of pop culture references and stuff. And I was like, what if I think it came from one of the chapters to me was very obviously, the last chapter was very obviously should be called You're Gonna Make It After All. And I thought, because Mary Tyler Moore, and I thought, well, what else can I do? What else is in there? So when I went to the very first chapter, and it's about the messed up reality, introducing people to myself and to my widowhood, and the Fresh Prince thing came up, and was like, all right, this is the game. Now, it didn't work and everything, and some of them I changed, but 70%, I think, of the chapters have that reference, or those references. And I also like the fact that I didn't say, and now here's the part where I make these references, because I think pop culture references are they lose their power if you have to point them out to people. You have to explain them. So
and I did read the Fresh Prince part as though I was singing along. I may have sung along. I'm not going to lie.
That's good. Now, this is a story all about how my life got flipped. Exactly. And I know that some people aren't going to read it. I mean, the pop culture stuff is firmly aimed at people our age, because that's what I know. And I have some older references and some newer references, but I absolve myself of having to be current, because it's not my book. If you wanted to read something like that, you would read the book of a 25-year-old, and not mine. So, and I tried to, I took a lot of things out just because I didn't want to make it so that it would really hang up people who weren't familiar, but I kept enough of it in there that it was me, and that you didn't spend the whole time like you needed a thesaurus going, who is Ethan Hawke? I don't understand. Who is Sheila E? What is this? And those references stayed in there, but I took some of them out. I think there were probably lost one Sheila E reference and probably two other Ethan Hawke references, but they stayed. The other ones.
The book kind of starts off in the middle of this tragic event, and it appears that you're actually writing as these events were happening. Is that how this book started? Were you journaling this, or did you come back and revisit it?
I wrote that probably a month after it happened, maybe. That chapter I started and just wrote. I would take notes. I'm not like a let me buy a journal and faithfully write in my journal person. I'm more of a when it strikes, it strikes. And so there were bits of memories on the notes mode in my phone, or on receipts as I was waiting to talk to someone on the phone about canceling something and explaining to them once again that Scott was no longer here and didn't know the money anymore. That kind of thing. And I would just write stuff down. I would something would strike me and I would go blah, 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 blah. And I'm not super organized, but I tried to keep those things together. The notes mode thing was great because I always had my phone. And then that first chapter, like I said, I just kind of it out. And there were some tweets on it, but that's basically what happened.
And one of my favorite parts, without spoiling it, and it's not like a major moment, but it just shows the constant funny comic parts to this experience where you're talking to what you term as the bad cop, and he's kind of treating you in an insensitive way, and you kind of muse, what is this guy in a band that I gave a bad review to?
I really did have this moment where I'm like, is he always this way, or did I do something to him, or there's something about him? But yeah, I had this moment. I was like, I don't understand. And not that I am well known outside of Palm Beach County, because I am not. I'm beginning to be, but mostly this is my area. So I will constantly run into people who apparently feel some kind of way about me, good or bad, and I have no idea who they are. I don't remember them. Somebody will say, hey, that's blah, blah, blah. And I go, I'll know who that is. But then who I am. So, and I'm sure it's like that with you, Eddie, that you're a public person. So there are a lot more people who know who you are than you remember. Because in the context of a lot of things, you're the person giving the information, as an attorney or, on the show or whatever. And there's people who are watching it. So your audience is bigger than you. And it's hard sometimes because sometimes I'll see people and I'll think, there's a reason they're not smiling at me, and I don't know why. Did they date? And sometimes it's like they dated a friend of mine, or, it really was like I said something about a band that they like that I didn't like. I mean, it really is weird stuff like that.
And I get a lot of, oh, you're Jaquie. I've seen you on Facebook.
Yes. Yes.
So Leslie, you're an award-winning journalist. You're leaving the Post soon. You have a great book here. What do you have another project that you're working on? Can you tell us anything?
My project is Finding a Permanent Job is my project. While that's exciting. It's scary. I mean, I'm going to be okay for a little bit, but I got some stuff's coming in. I got an email yesterday about something that's coming. I'm like, yes, cha-ching, check. But, I know a lot of people who kind of let it swing, and I cannot quite do that because I have a child and like I have a mortgage at some point or whatever, so I can't super let it go. But I have some writing projects I want to do. I have some things that should be coming up in the future, and there's the opportunity for things to happen with this book in terms of we've optioned it for TV, and we are waiting to we're putting things together, and the people who optioned it are putting things together to try to then sell it to a network or a streaming service. So that probably won't happen for a while, but I'm excited for that because that involves more money and just another way to tell a story. So,
well, congratulations. It sounds very fun. Why don't we talk about what you're good at for a second, pop culture and,
yes!
So Leslie, we have a lot of time on our hands right now, and we're looking for some TV shows to kind of binge watch. What kind of recommendations do you?
And I love those things that you can go back. Like I'm binging the last season and a half. I started with second season watching again of The West Wing and going through, and I've got another season and a half left. But Scandal is something I would probably binge again. How to Get Away with Murder, it's something I would probably binge again because the ending was perfect. I watch a lot of Law and Order reruns. They just sort of show up. There are things right now that friends of mine are binging that are current, or at least the season's just ended. Insecure on HBO is a great show. I did Girls once. I would never do that again. I did it once. It was like, so I feel like I have to stick through it.
Girls was not my thing. I didn't.
No.
I watched a few episodes and was like, yeah, I think I'm old.
Yeah, I was too, and I felt like some of it I watched for work, and because I was writing a lot of that stuff, and after a while, I'm like, I would skip like 8 episodes, 6 episodes, and go, okay, let me catch up in case something big happens that people are going to be talking about tomorrow. The Great on Hulu. It's very purposefully historically inaccurate telling of the story of Catherine the Great, starring Elle Fanning. It is not for kids. It is very like things told out of time. It's very racially diverse, the cast, in a way that Russia was not, obviously. It's very funny. It's super dirty. It's slightly sexy, and it's really great. It's really, really great and funny. And at the end, I hope there's a second season. At the end, it's when a coup is about to happen, and you go, oh, okay, this is great. But that was really great to watch. I did not enjoy Hollywood on Netflix. That was Ryan Murphy's sort of like alternative history of Hollywood. I didn't enjoy that.
No, I didn't either. I tried an episode of that and I didn't like it. I expected to because I like a lot of his work.
Me too.
Nip Tuck, at least the first few seasons of Nip Tuck was one of my favorite shows ever. Before it got weird.
Yeah, exactly. I watched the first 2 seasons until it was clear that they just were going in a debauched way, and I was like, it's not fun anymore.
For the shock value.
For the shock value, because the whole point of it was watching these characters trying to hold on to their souls, and when they decided they didn't have them anymore, what was the point? There was no point. It was like, I'm just going to be more degraded. It's like, so why? I didn't enjoy it after a while, but I really enjoyed the beginning. I'd forgotten how much I liked that show. That came on around the time I moved here. So I didn't have a lot of friends, so I had a lot of time to watch FX. So
I saw you were up early this morning on Twitter.
Goodfellas is it was The Untouchables I was watching.
Either or.
Yeah, you know,
I can't see either one in front of her.
no, the Goodfellas is a really wonderful movie, and I'm glad that I saw it, but I never have to watch it again. And
That's how I felt about it.
Yeah,
So-
like Schindler's List, same way. It's like I don't ever have to do this no more. Beloved, same way. Don't ever have to do this no more. I lived through it. I get it. I appreciate it culturally, and you know, for its art. And now I'm like, I'm good.
Plus, he made Ray Fiennes, who at the time was gorgeous, look like, you know, a big fat bad guy.
Oh,
And at the time, he was beautiful.
So just. But I thought what I like about Ray Fiennes as an actor is that just like Jude Law, these beautiful men who were confident enough in their looks that they're willing to play horrible people, and also because their beauty becomes a factor in their villainy. Their beauty becomes a factor. Ray Fiennes' beauty, he was just a straight up beautiful man. And
the English Patient, oh my God.
Ugh.
Ugh. Sorry, Eddie. I love you.
I would say very quickly, it was one of those movies that I thought I liked it the first time, and I watched it again and realized, no, I was caught up in the pageantry, but I hated all of these people. It was beautiful to look at, though. Beautiful.
I had just read the book, and the book,
wow.
if you've read it, is really, it's different. I mean, it's the same, but it's so different from the movie that I was just really like, oh, wow. How did they take, you know, the English Patient book and turn it into this movie? I am not that talented. So that was really exciting to me.
That's really cool. I love that. This is a flashback. Ask a Local from our Ask a Local.
Oh my gosh.
All the things.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of Scandal.
I love
She asked about Scandal, and Scandal, trashy. It's so funny because the first season was they tried to do it like a procedural, like, you know, here's this fixer in DC, and every week there's something. And then they decided, you know, we're just going to make it this trashy, you know, it's sex and affairs and murder and rigged elections, and it just goes nuts. And it's really fun, honestly. There's a couple seasons where you're like, I hate all of these people, so I have to make a decision. We're going to keep following this, literally. But I really liked it. I had a discussion with a friend of mine about the Olivia Pope character, and she does all these dumb things. And I'm not the first person to say this. It was a very diversely cast show, but the character has like 3 friends, and none of them are Black women. And I was like, if she had Black girlfriends, I'd be like, girl, do not do that. That is bad for you. And then the show would have been over. Fooling you out.
And Scott Foley is on Scandal too.
Oh my gosh, he's a psychopath.
Was Scott Foley on Scandal too?
Yeah, he's like a hot psychopath.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, he's
okay. That's fun.
Oh, and he wears a uniform a lot. So
my.
Oh yeah, he was my favorite part of that show. And the writing is really great. And there's a character. It's so funny how character development happens. I won't give it away, but there's a character that I wanted first really disliked, and she became one of my favorite characters because they let her go. They were like, you know what? Everything that happened in your life that would happen to you, you'd probably be crazy. So go for it.
Yeah.
It's super fun. Yeah. It's fun. I just finished How to Get Away with Murder.
Is that one also good?
I don't know if it's good. It is very engrossing. I think good, when you say good, like, is it like artistically redeeming? Probably not. There are some very important parts of it, like about, you know, different kinds of relationships and about the struggles of being a professional Black woman. But there's also lots of murder and stuff that's not realistic. And you keep going, why do these people still have jobs? Who would still talk to them? I don't understand why this is a thing. But that's, I just finished it. I might watch that all over again. I'm watching, the last 2 days I've been binging the West Wing again.
Jackie's been watching this program I'm not familiar with called Scrubs.
Yes. How do you not know Scrubs, dude?
I don't watch nearly as much TV as the two of you do. Jaquie is so much more immersed in pop culture and smarter than me.
Scrubs, great. And Scrubs was it was a funny show that could then, like my book, be very serious in some ways about young doctors.
Yes.
And and it had just like great stuff. Like, once again, it was a very a diverse cast. It was like they would break into song for no reason. The two leads are best friends who are probably a little too close, and are nuts. It's just really fun. It's a really fun show. Like I said, there were some very sad, serious parts. Scott Foley was on that too.
Yes, he was. And I just listened to the podcast with Scott Foley on it yesterday when I was driving around.
I haven't heard it yet. I'll have to.
Which was also a lot of fun. And you can tell that those people really like one another. I think that's probably the most important thing. They had Neil Flynn on too, the janitor. And you can just tell that these people, every person they've had on, you can just tell they all love each other so much.
I haven't listened to it in a while. I tried to listen to it this morning and I couldn't get it to work on Spotify. West Wing Weekly, the podcast is really great. And everyone that they have on there, I'm forgetting his name, the actor that played Will Bailey in the later seasons, Joshua Malina, and another guy. And it's really great. And they've had Julie Hill and, you know, different people on the show. And and once again, I'm so obsessed with that show. It's always great to try to go back and watch those episodes and get like the deep dive into it. It's great.
Yes. These podcasts are kind of bringing back things for us.
Absolutely.
What other shows, Leslie, would you recommend if you have some time? You know,
wow.
What is Leslie watching?
I just finished watching this incredibly beautiful and trashy neo-Dallas kind of thing with Kevin Costner called Yellowstone, that's on Paramount, the Paramount channel, that starts again. The third season starts tomorrow. And it is Dynasty, but trashier and drunker, but with beauty. And it's also like, he's the guy who owns a cattle ranch in Montana, and his children are all messed up. One of his sons married a native woman, and for when you first meet him, has left the family, lives on the reservation with his wife and child. And you know, because it's a show, that's not going to last. And there's one son who I think is like a ranger, and there's one son who's like a lawyer who's a jerk, and the daughter is like this. If she were a son, would have been the son that took over everything. She's like JR, but a woman. She like
right.
And she's in love with like the guy that is there. She's been having a relationship that was never quite a relationship for years with the guy who's their foreman, who's been with them since he was young, and she drinks too much. And for some reason, both she and the dad honestly kind of hate one of the other sons, and you don't know why. But I think you'll find out it's like there's like everybody's murdered somebody again, like how they go with murder or scandal. Everybody's murdered somebody. It's gorgeous. There's like nuttiness. There's kidnappings, and Kevin Costner is just a really great presence, and he's really good. I didn't know how he would be on a television show, but like it's a television show that's shot like a movie every week.
Yeah,
great expanses. That's really fun. I'm about to start watching Greenleaf, which is on the OWN channel, which is about a family that runs a mega church in Memphis. That's really like, once again, everything I watch is like soap opera. Let's be honest, everything I've named is like a soap opera, but with you know, it's very good.
I mean, I grew up on Dallas and Dynasty, so yeah.
I remember General Hospital, and they made the weather machine, so they could manipulate the weather.
The Cassadine.
I can't believe I know that.
Cassadine. Laura. Well, I think that a lot of that, honestly,
it's okay.
The things that I like, I think, explain a lot about me and how I write and who I am, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I like big stuff. I like, very melodramatic, like, Joan Collins and her earrings, like taking your earring off melodramatically and talking on the phone, and Diane Carroll slapping people and throwing down furs and that. So I've always responded to that because it's fun. And it was funny because in the 90s, everything was supposed to be so like reserved and ironic and whatever. I'm like, no, slap more people. fun. Throw stuff. It's like all this like I have cool to admit that I earnestly like something, and I'm going woohoo, you know. So I think that's what set me apart, because everyone else was trying to be cool, and my friends in their pictures are always wearing black, and I'm wearing like a pair of overalls with a pink T-shirt and dumb earrings, going woo, yeah. So.
There's one thing that might go along with that. So, jaunty hats, Leslie. I put on my jaunty hat for you.
I love it.
Jaunty hat you mentioned in the book a couple of times.
Yeah.
Is that actually a Leslie thing? Do you enjoy your big dynasty style hats? Because there is that stereotype of, you know, black women going to church and their big landscape hats.
I was there some people at the churches I grew up in had big hats. It was the older ladies wore the big hats. My mother was not a hat person. I like hats because they're fun. I don't wear them a lot, but I do. I'm looking around my room and there's a bunch of hats in my room. For my Molly Ringwald costume that I wore recently, I had a hat, because you got to have a hat, and a red wig.
Yeah.
But I just love the word. And I love accessories. Like I said, my ears aren't pierced, so I wear clips so I can wear like big goofy ones like this. I love jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got to go and I had dinner on a friend's porch 6 feet away yesterday, and I actually dressed like a fun T-shirt and leggings and boots and earrings and like a necklace. I was like, I feel like me. I'm overdressed. Yes.
I get so dressed up to go to Pet Supermarket now.
My gas bill is so low. That's kind of crazy. Have you ever seen the musical Hamilton or heard it?
I just saw it at the Kravis earlier this year. And it's one of those things where you hear hype and go, well, this can't possibly be this good. And it really was. It really was just. And now, I mean, I think everyone should watch it now, because it had so much to say about what our country really is and what it was based on. And when you see people of color playing slave owners, you know, and you see them who are talking about freedom, and when you see this casting of people expressing these timeless thoughts and processes, but in a way, so wonderful. It's so funny because people for a million years will now try to get it wrong, because it wasn't successful because it was rap. It wasn't successful just because it was multicultural. It was successful because Lin-Manuel Miranda understood why those things were important to the story, and they became integral to the story, and he told it in a way that other people couldn't have, and it's brilliant. My sister's name is Lynn, so I feel like it's close.
There's that connection.
Close enough. Yeah.
There you go.
So in this pandemic, there's also this incredible movement happening right now where we're taking race and systematic racism in a much different note. And it seems like events keep happening to shine lights on why this needs to have a light on it. And as a society now, we're struggling to deal with that. And I don't know. I admit I'm a white privileged dude, and I can never understand what it would be like to you know, I'm a divorce attorney, and people hate divorce attorneys, but I can never imagine going through your life like that.
Well, here's the thing. I always say, being black is awesome. It's people's reaction to my being black is a problem. It's not my problem. It's other people's problem. Being black is amazing. I'm descended from really strong people who did some really great stuff. I have really fun hair. I like my skin color. I don't look my age. They say black don't crack. All that is great. I have really good skin. However, it's the reaction of people to me and people who are like me based on years and years and ages of anti-black racism, which is worldwide. Because you look around the world and everyone's selling lightning creams and stuff. Nobody want to be, as Paul Mooney said, everyone want to be black, but nobody wants to be black. Everybody wants to like listen to jazz and listen to rap, wear the earrings and stuff, but nobody wants to actually go through the experience of what that means. And I wouldn't choose to be anyone else. I wouldn't choose to be anything else. I'm very proud of who I am, not in spite of, but because of those things. Having said that, the reason that we are where we are because everyone wanted to ignore it for so long. And someone asked me yesterday why they thought it was coming up now. And I think it's because, I mean, it's not like we didn't see Rodney King. It's not like we didn't see Philando Castile. But for some reason, the George thing, watching, because it happened with everything else, you could go, oh, well, they startled them, so we had to shoot them. Or they thought he had a gun. This man was clearly for almost 9 minutes, handcuffed on the ground, incapacitated under someone's knee. And you can try to explain away by his criminal background, which was significant, but had nothing to do with why he was arrested and in custody that day. You can try to say everything about, oh, they weren't fear. What were they in fear? There were 4 of them and 1 of him. You can try to say so many things. And I think that people aren't comfortable with admitting because of privilege. People are uncomfortable admitting because then you have to think about what maybe you've done, or maybe attitudes you had, or why it's easier to fight Black people about racism.
Or haven't done.
Exactly. Well, it's easier to fight with me on Twitter about why I'm wrong than it is to fight with your uncle when he says the N-word at Thanksgiving. And why is that? Why do you feel more comfortable dismissing my experience and the experience of millions of other people when you can't address it at your house? You know it happens because you hear the jokes. You're in these places. You hear the comments. Oh, he's old. Oh, he's old and crazy. And there's millions of others like him. And they're making the laws and they're making the rules and they're shooting people. They're in Wellington telling 15-year-old girls they don't belong in the gated communities where they live. So that's what I think about that. I feel like
I can go back, 30, 40 years and think, nothing has changed. This is all very much the same. Going back to Rodney King and things that happened before that, nothing has changed. It feels very similar to me and what happened to the perceived progress that we thought we had made. But for you, the police violence actually goes back generations. This is something that's actually fairly personal to your family.
It is. And Eddie, I don't know if you know the story, but my great-grandfather was murdered by a white policeman in Seneca, South Carolina.
It's in the book.
It changed it all. It altered my family. Not only that took that person out of our family, but my family had to leave South Carolina and come back to Maryland. My mother's family thought they were South Carolina, and my parents met because they were back in Maryland in high school and in college, So that act of violence also, it set up years of trauma with my granddad. He didn't talk about it a lot, but I knew about it. And I knew that it was behind a lot of the attitudes and things that he felt. I mean, how could it not? And I think it instituted a sense of justice, and expecting that justice always was going to come. I was shocked when we did Ancestry.com and we got, you look at things and they say, hey, here's some new information. And we got a document, was my great-grandfather's, his name was J.C. James, didn't stand for anything, just his death certificate, and it actually mentioned his cause of death as homicide. And we were shocked because they don't do that now. They won't list people that are killed by police officers now. They won't say that they're murdered till hits the airwaves and people get mad. And the fact that in the 1950s, they were able to admit that he was murdered by this police officer was stunning to me. Of
course, nothing came of it. They admit that he was murdered, but nothing came of it.
No, years later, that man, I understand, killed himself. And I don't know why, but maybe he was guilty and maybe he saw my great-grandfather's face, and I wouldn't be sorry about that. I don't want anybody to die. But if you die and, you have things that you've done in your life that were then, I don't know if he ever killed anyone else. I don't know what the rest of his background was. I don't know if he went home and repented and gave his life to Jesus. I don't believe that that's what happened, but you never know. I will say, when you say that nothing's changed, the things that have changed is that even though some people would rather us go back to when we could not legally do things, they get so mad because they don't know how to take people like myself, or like the Obamas, or Beyonce, or Viola Davis, or people who do now have a position where they have a platform. That's why they get so mad at Leonard Pitts. That's why they get so mad at Yamiche on PBS, or people who are able to speak truth to power with this skin, with this face, because they don't want to talk about it, and it's insulting to some people. I'm not saying everyone, I'm just saying people who are racist are threatened by it. I'm not saying all people. I'm just saying if it bothers you because they're Black, it's because you have some racism issues. I didn't make that up. So there you go. And you have to figure out why. You have to figure out what it is about you that annoys me. I know that there were times where, like, when Gossip Girl first came out, I was annoyed by it. It's like, oh, because they're young and skinny and I hate them. That's why. Because they can't afford things that I can't afford, and it's ridiculous. And then now I just realized it's ridiculous. There's nothing, and it's fiction. It has nothing to do with my life. But I remember, like, why do I hate this so much? It's like, oh, that's why I hate it. Because there's a reaction to something that's really about me. It's really about me, my reaction to it. So that's, you have to figure that out. And I wound up liking Gossip Girl after that. So.
A lot of self-reflection.
Yes. And I think
it's a lot of self-reflection, and people just are not into it. There's
a thing that says when you're used to privilege, any focus on someone else feels like oppression. Because when you're the focus of something all the time, and then it's shown at someone else, you're like, no, what about me? What about me? It's like, everything is about you. Everything's about you. And just because someone else gets a chance, it's like whenever people go, why is there Black History Month? When's White History Month? I'm like, every other month.
The world has gotten so divisive. Jaquie has actually left Facebook because it's such a hostile environment right now.
Yeah, I just wasn't comfortable. I'm more comfortable on Twitter than I was on Facebook.
And Twitter can be accessible too. I think Twitter's more the people that attack you are people that you don't know, and then you can just delete them. On Facebook, it's like you find out that it's your college roommate.
Right.
Or my college roommates are amazing. Not them. But like, there's people I went to high school with, or people that I would meet at a party and go, oh, you're an idiot. And it's just like, delete. But it's harder because there's a guy that I used to know that a friend of mine and I collectively deleted him on Facebook because we were like, sometimes he's nice, sometimes he's awful. And the times that he's awful, he was really awful. So she said, I think we should do this together. I said, I think we should. So if anyone said, why did you get rid of this person? We could say, well, she did it too. It's because collectively, it wasn't just person, it was collectively we had an issue.
I realize that we have a whole lot more work to do.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I've been having a lot of hard conversations with people, and I think that's a necessary thing, and that's how we're going to achieve this growth. Leslie, before we let you go, are there plans for a second book?
Yes, actually, and it's so funny. I was all into it. I wrote like 5 pages, and then everything else in life, like the world went on pause and then simultaneously blew up, because even though I didn't have my physical tour, I have been busier promotionally because I'm doing this, I'm doing podcasts, I'm doing Facebook Lives and Zooms and all these things. And so I've got, like, besides my full-time job, the promotion of this book has become a full-time, where I've got like 4 or 5 events, sometimes a week. I'm sitting right in my house and writing, and I've got like 5 stories on a post this week. I think between two this morning on the front page and 1 big one tomorrow. So I've been like super busy, and there's just a lot going on in my life and keeping a child alive. So it's, with all that, I have not had time to do a lot more, but I actually wrote on my calendar, I must finish the first chapter this weekend. So I found if I write things down, I will probably do them. Probably.
Can you give us a hint? Fiction or nonfiction?
It's fiction. It's a rom-com.
Well, the book is called Black Widow, A Sad, Funny Journey Through Grief for People Who Normally Avoid Books with Words like journey in the title. Leslie, Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for being a beacon and not only sharing your story with us, but with the world. And I do believe that helps sharing these wounds help us all heal. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
And thank you, Leslie Gray Streeter, for that awesome interview, for being our last guest on the finale edition of Eddie's podcast. Now we're going to turn our attention to the Jaquie segment, where we are going to discuss the final episode of the Clone Wars. Not only the season finale of season 7, but the very last episode.
I am C-3PO, Human Cyborg Relations, and you are too late for that. Eddie's podcast is on, and it's time to listen to Jaquie discuss the Star Wars universe. The possibility of successfully navigating this intricate discussion is approximately 3,720 to 1. Oh dear, we're doomed!
If you look at the Star Wars timeline, this episode is actually happening at the same time as the Anakin Obi-Wan Kenobi fight on Mustafar.
So we left Ahsoka and Rex trapped in a medical room with the droids as the clones were trying to get into them. Order 66 has been triggered, and as we know from the prior episode, Ahsoka was able to fix Rex so that he was not under Palpatine's control, so he was helping her and protecting her. So here they are trapped in this medical bay with the droids that are helping them. And as they battle their way out of this room, they're trying to make their way to the shuttles so that they can escape. Ahsoka and Rex is kind of like, wait, it looks like Maul escaped. And Ahsoka just kind of casually throws back over her shoulder, oh no, I just let him out because I thought we needed a diversion. Which kind of threw Rex a little bit, but there was a lot more to deal with. And then we cut immediately to this amazing scene of Darth Maul making his way down a hall, very Darth Vader-like. He's fighting a bunch of clones. He doesn't have a lightsaber at this point or any kind of weapon except for the Force and, you know, whatever he can throw at the clones. It is, as I've said in so many of these synopsises, gorgeous. The cartoon imagery is just absolutely gorgeous. There's lots of Force strangling of the clones, lots of throwing clones up against the ceiling. He doesn't have any lightsaber. He doesn't have any real weapons, and he manages to get through a slew of clones.
Maul then disables the ship that they're on by using the Force to disable the hyperdrives. Rex and Ahsoka make it all the way to the control room, and they set the astromech droids to finding out what's going on. They discover the hyperdrives are gone and the ship is slowly being pulled into the gravitational pull of a moon. They unlock the shuttle doors, and when the bay doors open, they discover hundreds of clones protecting the shuttles.
Ahsoka will not hurt clones if she does not have to. She tells Rex that she refuses to be the cause of the clone's death, and so she comes up with a plan. The respect and love that Ahsoka has for the clones is so huge. And this moment where she refuses to kill them, despite the fact that she's really protecting herself, because these clones are on a mission. They have orders, and they're going to kill her or capture her no matter what. But she doesn't care. And this moment is probably one of the most Ahsoka moments of the Clone Wars, where she takes off Rex's helmet and holds his face and tells him, you're a wonderful warrior and a wonderful friend, and I'm not going to kill these clones. So I have a plan, and I hope it's a good one. And it's just such an honest moment with Ahsoka. And it's just, yeah.
Rex and Ahsoka walk towards the clones. It looks like Rex is capturing Ahsoka. Then he tries to argue that Ahsoka is not a Jedi. Cheap, the droid, who sounds just like Chopper from Rebels, and I think what ties him to the rebels is basically he's a C1 series astromech, and makes the same kind of sounds as rebels, but then he gets involved.
It doesn't take long for the clones to get tired of Rex's arguments, so the fight begins. And what Ahsoka has had the droids do is open up this pit underneath the floor that they're standing on. So probably a half to 2/3 of the clones just drop into this pit. And as that helps to clear the way to the shuttle, Ahsoka and Rex try to fight their way through the remaining clones to the shuttle. But guess what? Darth Maul basically had the same idea, and what they're actually doing is clearing the way for Darth Maul. And Ahsoka realizes what Maul is trying to do, kind of leaves Rex to try to fight off the clones while she's trying to fight Maul from getting to the shuttle. So it becomes quite an intense battle. It's another one of these just tremendous battle scenes that really takes your breath away. Ahsoka, who was never even a full-fledged Jedi Knight, battling both Darth Maul, who has incredible training, and the clones.
Maul gets into the shuttle, and Ahsoka tries to hold him by using the Force to no avail. She just can't fight the clones and save the shuttle, so Maul escapes.
Rex, Ahsoka, the droids, and the clones are fighting on literally a sinking ship. The ship that they're on is being pulled into the moon, as you said, and it is, being pulled down faster and faster. They know they do not have a lot of time to escape. The clones capture the droids and destroy a couple of them. Ahsoka takes the Force and throws Rex into the shuttle at the last minute, but she can't get to it because the ship explodes. So as the ship explodes, the shuttle that Rex is on is disgorged, and he has not gone through the starting sequence and all the stuff we've seen on all the Star Wars movies and shows for years and years. He's just thrown out of the ship, unfunctioning shuttle. So he's doing his best to get the shuttle started and keep an eye on Ahsoka and figure out where she's going. She's disgorged from the ship, and just like in the beginning of this season when she and Rex are going to Mandalore, and he brings a jetpack and forgets one for her, and so she's kind of jumping down to the surface of Mandalore. She does something really similar here, and she's kind of jumping around trying to keep an eye on Rex, who eventually gets the ship started and gets it righted, and eventually, after literally hanging by her fingernails at one point, she gets into the shuttle. She and Rex are safe for the moment, and you can just tell they're in utter and complete shock over what has happened. So both of them are safe, but they're in very deep psychological and physical shock.
On the ground, you see the shuttle and the crashed ship.
Then you see Rex putting some tools back in the shuttle, and Ahsoka is standing alone. And you see that she's standing in front of a makeshift cemetery. She and Rex buried all the clones, and they created a cemetery by taking all of their helmets and sticking them in the ground with, sorry, I'm getting emotional. They stuck sticks into the ground and put all of the clones' helmets on the sticks, creating a clone cemetery. And you can see Jesse's, you can see all of the clones, and you can see the helmets that just a couple of episodes before, the clones had painted to honor Ahsoka. They had painted it like her face and her coloring. And that moment for me, you can tell it was very emotional because she had so much love for the clones. And up until Order 66, they had so much love and respect for her that was a really, really heartfelt moment for me. And then Ahsoka drops one of her lightsabers, her Anakin newly refurbished lightsabers. And remember, these last 4 episodes took place over a very short period of time. So it wasn't that long ago that she saw Anakin and Obi-Wan. And at this point in the timeline, he's either already Darth Vader or just becoming Darth Vader, as she and Rex are burying the rest of the clones. And so Ahsoka leaves her lightsaber to give the impression that she was also killed during this. And
we cut to another ship landing. Not much time has passed. We see soldiers working, droids, those Imperial scouts that we saw in Hoth from The Empire Strikes Back, and other activities.
Then you see Darth Vader standing next to the wreck of the ship in front of the makeshift cemetery. He stands there for a few moments, and then he reaches down into what is snow, maybe a few inches of snow, and he picks out Ahsoka's lightsaber. And at the end, Darth Vader is looking up at the sky, where you see the type of bird flying around that Ahsoka is associated with. If you have seen Rebels, or even if you've seen earlier episodes of the Clone Wars, you know that there is a bird that she's associated with. And I don't know if it's that bird or if it's just another one, but that bird is flying around over the cemetery. And as you see Darth Vader holding Ahsoka's lightsaber and looking up at the sky, if you look closely, they're Anakin's eyes. You can still see Anakin's eyes as they're following the bird and holding Ahsoka's lightsaber. And then it cuts to black. And it's the end of the Clone Wars.
The very last scene with Ahsoka and Rex is rife with pain, heartbreak, and even respect.
I think that between Ahsoka refusing to kill clones if she didn't have to, which, let's be clear, she did have to, but she could have done much, much worse. And of course, most of the clones died anyway in the crash. I think that between that and Ahsoka burying all the clones and then standing there, dropping her lightsaber hilt as though she's buried with them, and I think a part of her is buried with the clones. It's the ultimate act of respect for Rex and for Rex's brothers. And I don't know if this was how Clone Wars was always supposed to be, but this was Ahsoka's show. Yeah, we learned a lot about Anakin, and for me, it made Anakin a more complete character, and kind of Obi-Wan too, because we learned that Obi-Wan kind of a jerk a lot of the time. But this was Ahsoka's show, and her growth from the minute we see her step off that ship and tell Anakin, yeah, no, Master Yoda wanted me to be your Padawan, to the end where we see her leave the clones and everything in between. It's just such an incredible growth arc. And as you would like to point out, I think it was a pretty good hero's journey too. Star Wars is full of them. And I believe that Ahsoka had a beautiful hero's journey.
This episode brings the Clone Wars saga to a close. Do you think we're going to see Ahsoka pop up in the future in the expanded universe?
My understanding is that Rosaria Dawson is going to be playing Ahsoka Tano in The Mandalorian, in the live action Disney Plus TV show The Mandalorian. However, she is not going to have a major plot line. I've heard rumors, or I've read, I should say, I've read rumors that The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and perhaps Sabine Wren from Rebels all run into each other during an adventure because, as you know, if you watched Rebels, Ahsoka and Sabine are looking for Ezra. So that's allegedly the way that she's going to come to The Mandalorian. Now, there's also going to be an Obi-Wan TV show, live action with Ewan McGregor. Yay! So the question becomes, did Ahsoka and Obi-Wan ever cross paths again after the Clone Wars and after Order 66? So yes, we are going to see her again. We are supposed to see her in live action. Obviously, I'm hoping we see a lot of her, but I have no idea what they have planned for her completely. They have played that very close to the vest.
Well, I look forward to seeing what Disney does with these characters, and maybe we'll be talking about them again like this in the future.
Thank you for having me on the podcast and giving me this space to talk about the Clone Wars. As you know, I really love the show, and obviously Ahsoka is a character that absolutely grabbed me by the heart. So thank you for giving me this space to talk about the Clone Wars.
That brings this 10th and final episode of Eddie's podcast to a close. Not only would I like to thank Jaquie, who has been assisting me throughout every episode, my guest, Leslie Gray Streeter, today for her time and wisdom, but all of my guests over this 10-week series. It's been an interesting adventure and a whole lot of fun.
Why did you decide to do a podcast?
Well, at first that wasn't clear to me. It just seemed my intuition pulled me to do it. Maybe we were bored because of COVID, and it was sure a fun way to memorialize conversations with people who were important to me or causes that I really believed in. But sometimes when you follow your bliss and you accept a call to adventure, that's really a pathway to something bigger. And now it appears that it is very clear that I will be doing something in my profession that will require a 1-hour video presentation. So in a way, these 10 episodes has given me an opportunity to learn how all of this equipment works, and in a way to get all of those technical bugs out before we actually do this in a way that is more of a professional presentation of the materials. So another example, if you follow your bliss, sometimes opportunities or doors open where before there were only walls.
I'm so glad that I could be of assistance to you during this journey, and I hope that we are able to do more podcasts, perhaps not divorce law related in the future, especially with season 2 of The Mandalorian coming up. And yes, that is a little bit of a hint.
Hint acknowledged. And at this point, we would like to sign off from season 1 of Eddie's podcast. And I thank everybody for tuning in. And until our next episode, do something that matters.
And so another chapter ends. Another book concludes. Another story has been told. Are we better for it? I'm afraid the answer to that has been lost for hundreds of years. Be sure to join us next week for another edition of Eddie's Podcast. To subscribe to this impressive podcast, go to www.eddiepodcast.com. And by the beard of Zeus, go do something that matters.